In this video, I will be discussing converting between two units that can be used to measure angles, degrees and radians. I will discuss both converting from degrees to radians and converting from radians to degrees. And that's where we'll begin, converting from radians to degrees. If I would want to convert 5 pi over 12 radians to its equivalent measurement in degrees, I would have to use the formula for converting radians to degrees, which is pretty straightforward. To convert an angle that is measured in radians to degrees, we'll simply multiply by 180 over pi. So if I have an angle, 5 pi over 12, that's being measured in radians, and I want to convert that to its equivalent degree measure, I'll simply multiply by 180 over pi. In this multiplication, I will be able to cross-cancel the factor of pi from each fraction, and that's going to leave me with 5/12 times 180. 5/12 times 180 represents the equivalent measure in degrees to the angle 5 pi over 12 radians. The product, 5/12 times 180, is 75, and that means an angle that is 5 pi over 12 radians is equivalent to an angle that is 75 degrees. Next, we'll go the other way. We'll convert an angle from degrees to radians. To convert an angle that is measured in degrees, such as 310 degrees, to radians, we're going to use a formula that is actually the reciprocal of the one that we just discussed. To convert from degrees to radians, you multiply the angle measured in degrees by pi over 180. So, to convert 310 degrees to radians, I'll multiply that 310 by pi over 180. Essentially, this becomes a problem that is asking you to put a fraction in lowest terms. 310 times pi over 180 is 310 pi over 180, and the reduction of this fraction simply involves dividing the numerator and denominator by 10. 310 over 180 in lowest terms is 31 over 18. So 310 pi over 180 in lowest terms is 31 pi over 18. 310 degrees is equal to 31 pi over 18 radians. Let's finish up by completing two more examples, one of each kind. First, let's convert 5 pi over 4 radians to degrees. Recall that when converting from radians to degrees, you multiply by 180 over pi. So if I want to convert 5 pi over 4 radians to its equivalent measure in degrees, I'll multiply by 180 over pi. In this situation, the pi's are going to cancel out, and I'm left with 5/4 times 180, and 5/4 of 180 is 225. An angle that measures 5 pi over 4 in radians is equivalent to an angle that measures 225 degrees. Finally, let's convert 80 degrees to radians. Again, recall that to convert degrees to radians, you multiply by pi over 180. So I'll take 80 degrees, multiply it by pi over 180, and again realize that I'm essentially putting the fraction 80 over 180 in lowest terms. 80 over 180 reduces to 4/9, so 80 pi over 180 is equivalent to 4 pi over 9. An angle that measures 80 in degrees measures 4 pi over 9 in radians.